Mesh to 3D.js. Since version 3 of the add-on, OBJ mesh files with corresponding MTL and texture files can be converted into 3D.js PLY files. At the time of this tutorial, only Windows is supported, and a specific file and folder structure must be followed for your OBJ file. If your OBJ mesh is not triangulated, or does not have a JPEG or PNG texture file listed in its MTL file, and all files are in the same folder, processing will fail. From the active menu, I can select Mesh to 3D.js. I will see some warning information that at the time of this tutorial, Linux and Mac are not supported. The OBJ mesh must be triangulated, and the color image texture must be in the same folder as your OBJ and MTL. Let's check the mesh I'm using. Here, I have some scans made using the KIRI Engine app. They are raw, untouched. I haven't edited any of the names or removed any of the files from the default folder structure. I'm not going to use my low poly model, so I'll delete it. And I'll check the high poly 3D model and associated MTL and image files. JPEG and PNG images are accepted, and I can open the MTL file in a text editor to check that everything is correct. My MTL file expects that we're going to use an image texture named 3dmodel.jpg, which we have right here. And all files are in the same folder. If I bring this model into Blender, I can see that the model itself is triangulated. There is a toggle for Validate Mesh, Texture, and MTL on the Mesh to 3D.js menu. This will attempt to verify that the model is triangulated and all requirements are met for the folder structure and files needed. If this is causing processing not to run and you believe that your file and meshes are correct, you can disable it. In most cases, it is best left enabled. I'm going to copy the folder for my mesh, and from the add-on, press Select OBJ. I'll find my OBJ mesh model, and when I press Mesh to GS, Blender will freeze while it processes. If you want to see what is going on, you can go to Window, toggle System Console. Now, when I begin processing, I should see some messages so I know that the process is running. I select my mesh, press Mesh to GS. I can see in the top here that the validation was run and that the mesh was triangulated. We found an MTL and we found that the paths for all of those files were in the same folder. Then we begin the mesh to GS conversion. Path exists check is true, so the process should be running. On my machine, this usually takes between 60 to 90 seconds. During that time, Blender will freeze and you'll just have to sit back and wait. Now that processing is completed, the folder has opened and I can see a new file, a PLY 3D.js file. The file has been named with the mesh name and the suffix mesh to GS. If I now open this file in a 3D.js viewer, I can see here is the created 3D.js file. There are some considerations that can impact the mesh to GS conversion, but we'll cover them in the dedicated Mesh to 3D.js quick guide.